Thank you.
And again, we'll take that live when Senator Mitch McConnell speaks at 11:30 a.m. In focus now, you see her there, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik of New York, House Republican Conference Chairwoman. Look, before we even get started on the chambers on the Hill, I have to say this. It looks like now that the current president-elect Donald Trump picked up double digits, as much as 40% more of the Jewish vote. Can you talk to me about that? You were one of the biggest voices in this country, Congresswoman, against the anti-Semitic movement of Jewish Americans.
Well, we're seeing a political realignment, Harris, and whether it's the increased votes and support among African-American voters, Latino voters, or Jewish voters. And if you look at the stakes, under President Trump, we had peace in the Middle East. You had the strongest president to stand with Israel ever in our nation's history, and the Abraham Accords, the biggest breakthrough for peace normalization in over a quarter century. Compare that to where we are today. Just over 1 year ago, you had the Iranian-backed Hamas terrorist attack, again attacks from Iran, from Iranian homeland into Israel. This is really unprecedented chaos and catastrophe. So people are paying attention to these national security issues. And what we saw on college campuses with the skyrocketing of anti-Semitism and the failure of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to condemn that and show strong moral leadership compared to President Trump, who put in an executive order to expand Title VI protections for Jewish students. We know that President Trump is going to combat anti-Semitism on day one and hold those higher education institutions accountable. Obviously, the voters know that as well.
All right, let's look toward now what happens on Capitol Hill. First of all, what are you watching really closely? There are races that are still coming in. What do you perceive will happen for the U.S. House?
Well, I am optimistic that we will pick up seats in the House, and here's why. If you look at President Trump's performance in carrying Senate candidates over the line, there is no modern-day candidate of either party who turns out voters more effectively than President Trump. So we feel very optimistic that we're going to pick up seats. I'm watching the Maine seat, where President Trump did very well. Michigan, we picked up a seat. Obviously, we're looking at some of these California seats where President Trump is running 10 to 15 points ahead of where he did in 2020. And I think if you look at the overall atmospherics, Harris, you'll see that every single county in America, President Trump did better than he did in 2020, and Kamala Harris underperformed where Joe Biden was in 2020. Yeah. So this is a surge, and the fact that he won the popular vote is extraordinary and a testament to the American people rallied around his America First vision.
Look, can we talk about really stronghold blue areas like New York City? My state of New Jersey, by the way, I mean, previously it was double digits that Democrats were winning that by 5 points. I mean, 5 points for Kamala Harris to take the cobalt blue state of New Jersey and then New York City.
And President Trump leaned in. Remember, the mainstream media smeared him for having that Madison Square Garden rally, for campaigning on Long Island, in the Bronx, and that paid off. President Trump understood that what is happening in this country, whether it's the crime crisis, the inflation crisis, the border crisis, which is not just impacting the states along our southern border, it's impacting all of these blue states that have sanctuary city policies. He hit a nerve in terms of understanding the American people are fed up with single-party Democrat rule that you have in these traditionally blue states. That's why you see him perform in states like New York, the strongest Republican presidential candidate since Ronald Reagan. So this is a real political realignment, and it's a tectonic shift. The Democrats' failed policies and their radicalization, whether it's defund the police, woke DEI agenda in our schools, that's not where the vast majority of the American people are. President Trump understood that, and he did well in all of these states for a reason.
And he made people feel like they were heard. I mean, his trip to Harlem. You just take a look at some of the things that he did in a Democrat stronghold. And hopefully those people today feel like they are still being heard, because we have to bring the country together. Congresswoman, thank you. Abortion measures were on the ballot in 10 states.